Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian D. Lerner. We're talking about the various English requirements that are necessary in order to become a U.S. citizen, but many times people come into my office, they don't speak English. So are there exceptions? Well, first, there is the age lawful permanent resident status exception. And so you have to keep this in mind, because if this exists, then it will be possible to not know English or not be fluent in English and still become a U.S. citizen. So specifically, the English language requirement shall not apply to persons over the age of 50 who have lived in the U.S. for 20 years in lawful permanent resident status. So we can just call that the 50-20 rule. So they're over 50 years old, and they basically have had lawful permanent resident status since they were 30 or before. There is another exception. This one is for people who are over 55 and have lived in the U.S. for 15 years in lawful permanent resident status. So again, if they're over 55 and have lived in the U.S. for at least 15 years in lawful permanent resident status, they do not need to know the English language requirement. Mind you, they still need to know the history and take the government test. They're just going to be taking it in whatever language it is, Spanish or whatever language it is that they do know. Now, there is one more item here where the Attorney General will give special consideration of the civics knowledge or the history of the government to persons over 65 years of age with 20 years as a lawful permanent resident status. So this is a further way that essentially they don't only need to know the English requirement, but they also can be relaxed on knowing the civics and history exam. In this particular case, again, if they have over 65 years of age and have 20 years as a lawful permanent resident status, then they will be given a special test of 25 civic questions, of which they need to know essentially only 6 correctly. So, they can theoretically get nearly 75% wrong on the civics exam and still pass without knowing English and without basically knowing the majority of the English requirement. So that is an example of how the United States will benefit persons who have quite a few years and who have the necessary requirements as stated above. Okay, more on the coming videos.